Thanks for joining us on episode 1031 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Robert Raymond Riopel, and I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to improve consistently over time is key. And one of the ways to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend, Scott Mader. And you're going to have what I call in your life, Scott, you're going to have what's called dream stealers. And a dream stealer is someone who's going to try to rob those dreams from you. And a lot of the times, the biggest dream stealers are the people closest to you. And I want to be clear, they don't necessarily do it to be malicious. They do it out of love, out of protection. They don't want to see you get hurt.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's interview with Rob Riopel, I asked Rob about his definition of stewardship. I also asked Rob about his top principles that you need to learn if you want to make a dent in the universe. And Rob also shares about his legacy and what his hopes and plans for the future are.
One reason I like to bring you great interviews like the one you're going to hear today is because of the power in learning from others. Another great way to learn from others is through reading books. But if you're like most people today, you find it hard to find the time to sit down and read. And that's why today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Go to inspiredstewardship.com/audible to sign up, and you can get a 30-day free trial. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from, and instead of reading, you can listen your way to learn from some of the greatest minds out there. That's inspiredstewardship.com/audible to get your free trial and listen to great books the same way you're listening to this podcast.
Robert Raymond Riopel is an international best-selling author, app designer, entrepreneur, and trainer who has spent the past 18 plus years traveling around the world sharing his passion. He has also shared the stage with and trained many of the top trainers and thought leaders in the world today. Robert draws on his journey from humble beginnings to financial freedom at the age of 32 to inspire individuals into tapping into their greatness. Realizing that he is not the only person that struggles, Robert's clues open individuals up to the possibilities that lie within them. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Glad to be here.
So, Robert, last week I asked you about the word leadership, and another word that I like to have all of my guests talk about is the word stewardship. Of course, that's my brand, and that's how I run my lens. And yet, again, I've discovered as I've asked people about that word that everybody has a little different take on it. So what's your definition of stewardship, and how has that thought or that meaning impacted your life?
Well, stewardship is so important because it is a kind of a parallel to, in my mind, to leadership. And it does come back to being the steward of yourself. As an example, in my new book, The Authority Key, I have what's called the Authority Master Key. And I use the acronym VITAL. We've discussed previously. I love acronyms. Keep it simple. The L in VITAL stands for, and when it comes to loyalty, people think initially that I'm being, if you make a commitment, stay loyal. If you do this, stay loyal. Absolutely. But the most important person to be loyal to is your own dreams. How many people give up on their own dreams before they'll give up on other people's dreams? And that to me is stewardship right there, because you cannot give what you don't have. And if you can't take and protect and take care of you, your dreams, your passions, how do you ever think you can be able to help other people?
Really is hearing what we've talked about over the last 3 weeks and now, and they're thinking, I do want to make an impact. I want to make a dent in the universe myself. What are some of the top, again, 2 or 3 principles, tips, ideas, mindsets that they need to have to be able to really do that?
Authenticity would be a big one right there. Be you again, that your most authentic self that you can be. Courage. It takes courage. It absolutely does. Even if you fall, and you're going to have what I call in your life, Scott, you're going to have what's called dream stealers. And a dream stealer is someone who's going to try to rob those dreams from you. And a lot of the times, the biggest dream stealers are the people closest to you. And I want to be clear, they don't necessarily do it to be malicious. Mm-hmm. They do it out of love, out of protection. They don't want to see you get hurt. But you have to have the courage that if something's important to you, there's a dream that you have, something that you want to accomplish, you have to have the courage to go for what you want. And even if other people, and again, I can only come from my own experiences. My wife and I, youngest of both of our families, and our families, not entrepreneurs. So when we announced that we were going to go from managing a Domino's Pizza to becoming franchisees, they went crazy on us. What if it doesn't work out? You guys have never been in business. You don't understand things. What are you going to do? And we could have let that shut us down. We really could have. But inside we were like, look, this is the real story to it is it was necessity because we were about to be laid off because our franchisee was selling his stores. And we knew as soon as he sold the stores, we'd be laid off because the new owners came in and wanted to have their own staff in place. Out of the necessity, we were making $700 a week. And even though we were qualified, we didn't have money to buy a franchise. But out of necessity, we started learning how do you buy a business if you don't have money? And that's what our family saw us going through is stumbling a lot, making a lot of mistakes over a 4 to 5 month period, even paying someone $1,000 that guaranteed they could find us an investor, only to find out after that, nope, no one wants to invest in you. And that was a fee that's non-refundable. So we made a lot of mistakes and made a lot of learnings. So out of protection, they were trying to tell us, just look, find another store to manage. It's okay. You don't have to. And so we had to have the courage to keep moving forward. And look, let's be clear. I wanted to quit many times. But one of the things when we talk about those growth-minded people in your life, I never have a problem admitting and telling people, I would not be doing what I'm doing today, Scott, if it wasn't for my wife. See, I grew up being that in-the-box thinker. Don't question the box. Don't doubt the box. Just do what's in the box. And my wife, she's like, what box are you talking about? And she's the one that's a gift that she started giving me that now we give each other. She's not willing to let me play smaller than I am. And thank God for that. Because if it was left to me, I'd be still in a job, miserable, but comfortable in that job. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So comfortable, you've used that word a couple of times. I think I would add that to the list of one of those things that holds people back from living their real dreams a lot of times. Is it's the good holding us back from the great. So often we aren't willing to kill the good to get the great.
Yeah. And think of the saying, the devil is better than the devil you don't. To the mind, that is the most important thing because the mind has only one job, which is to keep you right where you are, keep you the same in your comfort zone. Your mind doesn't want you to grow. It's not your success. It's not there for your success. It's not there for your happiness. It's to keep you the same. And so if you're miserable, your mind wants you to stay miserable because it doesn't want to know what else could be out there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, absolutely. Comfort zone is, here's what I tell people. I'll draw it on a flip chart and I'll say, C, and hang on, I'm talking to mostly Americans, Z, because Canadians, we'd say Z. I'll put CZ equals KZ. And I say your comfort zone is the killing zone of your dreams.
Yeah. So now we'll turn to a couple of, I jokingly call the easy question. If I invented this machine and I could grab you out of your seat right now and lift you up and take you into the far future, maybe 100 to 150 years in the future, and you were able to magically look back on your entire life and the impact that you've made, what is the impact that you hope you've left behind on the world?
That I've helped people live more authentic lives, to realize they truly are great and that they can live a passionate life of their dreams. Every autograph I sign, every email I send, it ends with always live with passion. So that's what I'd love to be known for.
What would that look like for you?
Just being that in the moment, day to day. even if things are going wrong, what's the lesson I get out of this? And how can I use that lesson to move forward for my life and to empower others?
So what's coming next for Robert as you continue on this journey of living your call and impacting the world?
It's a total reinvent. I've gone from traveling 200,000 miles plus a year around the world to zero. And so I'm now actually sitting in 2 weeks. Finally, 2 weeks ago, I started moving into my brand new office, which on the other side of the wall is a 1,500 square foot training center that my wife and I built on our property attached to our home. Because now for me, instead of, even as the world changes and opens back up eventually, instead of me traveling around the world nearly as much, I'll have my students come see me, be able to come, because I love being at home and I love my time off. So being able to have my students come and experience, because my passion is I love coaching trainers and really helping them to discover their message, own their message, greatest ways to get the message out there. And so having someone here in my studio and where I'm able to put them in front of a camera and make them little adjustments to help them become more authentic and more present on the stage, that's what really ignites me. So that's what's coming next. And as I write the book, The Authority Key, with it being released at the beginning of next year, is the kind of due date that we're not 7 years down the road or 8 years down the road. This one's going to come out right away. That's the other thing.
Now we're going to hold you to that. So now you got accountability. You just said that to a whole bunch of people. So you're going to get angry emails if you don't.
Absolutely.
So you can follow Robert on Twitter as RobRocks69 or find him on his website over at successleftaclue.com. He's also active on LinkedIn as Real Training. And you can find him on Facebook as The Robert Riopel. Of course, I'll have links to all of that over in the show notes as well. Robert, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listener?
Yeah, Scott, you were so gracious to have me on as a guest. What I would love to do for your listeners, because remember the currency of time. To me, one of the most valuable commodities we have is our time. And the fact that you've taken your time to interview me and be here, but more importantly is your listeners have taken their valuable time to listen. What I'd love to do as a gift from us to them is my first book, international best-selling book, Success Left a Clue, is if they go to robertriopel.com, just my name.com, they're actually going to be able to download the full digital version, not just a couple chapters, but the full digital version of Success Left a Clue as our gift to them. And I will say it does come with a caveat. I did not write this book for people to read it, put it on the shelf, and make it shelf help. That's not why I wrote it. Remember, step number 3 in the book is take action. So all the way through the book, it's a workbook. I have action steps. And so what I'm going to ask people to do is if you download the book, do the action steps. I promise you do, it will change your life. And look, because I know people are creatures of habit, it'll even say in different chapters, did you do the last action step? If not, stop reading right now, go back, do the action step, and then start reading again. Because I know people are creatures of habit. And I'd love to have them for them to have that as a gift from the two of us for taking their value.
That is an awesome gift. And of course, I'll drop a link to that as well over in the show notes so folks can find it easy. But I encourage you to download the book and read it, but even more, take action on what's in the book as well.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.